next question comes from Ian on Facebook. I thought this one was interesting. This one was not a question for me, but it was in one of those brewery Facebook groups, and I don't remember which one off the top. And it says, if you owned your own building, had no debt, everything is paid for, and your only debt is minimal liabilities, would you undercut your local competition by selling cheaper pints because it's better for the customer's interests? I think this is interesting, and you might disagree with me, but I'm gonna ramble on this one a little bit. We've used the terminology before. Well, we haven't. I mean, Bart Watson and I've mimicked it. I've repeated it. Said that the industry is maturing, and I will say one of the things that I love about brewing and is probably the primary animating spirit behind this podcast, this YouTube channel, is the fact that so many people have freely shared with me their experience over the years. I think it's essential. I think it's a core thing about what we do, and that's just me. That's just the way I brew. I view this pro brewing thing that we're all doing. It doesn't have to be your thing. That's fine. If you're of the impression that, listen, I had to grind it out on my own, trial and error, learn this stuff. My information is my information. You do you. I think I don't have a problem with it. But my experience has been, I've had so many people share with me. I'm going to share. Okay. And also I just love it. It's my personality. Okay. So I think there's an interesting thing to where, there's this line where we say, well, we're all in it together. And I think there's elements of it that are true. I think there's tremendous room for collegiality. And well, not just, I don't want to use the word fraternity because that's just brotherhood, but obviously, we have not just men working in this, but something collegial, right? We should support each other. We should support each other in getting better. At the same point, depending on what stage you are at in your career or whatever, I mean, the reality is that we're either working for or we are operating businesses. So if I were in this situation and I have the ability to do that, say everybody's running $7 pints, and this is just argument's sake, so don't try to poke holes in this scenario. And I, for some reason, I'm able to make the exact same IPA, and my costs are 75% reduced, and so I can make the same amount of money and maybe even more money still with a $5 pint than the person who's making the same beer for a $7 pint. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. At the end of the day, as a business, you're responsible for keeping your doors open, and people paid. If you feel as if there's an advantage, a competitive price advantage to that can be leveraged, I mean, that's fine. I mean, this is what I mean. Rheingeist can make beer for a hell of a lot cheaper than I could at Cartridge. You know what I mean? And we're in the same market. We're on the same store shelves in some cases. I don't think it's unfair that they have, economy of scale. It's just a reality. But I do think it's an interesting thing. And I was dipping into the comment section on this, and I think you see two different, you see almost kind of two different, almost parodied viewpoints. Like some, like the super idealist type one, that's like, oh, you could never do that to your brothers and sisters in the industry. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, you can. You could. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to be bad to people. Like if you have an economic advantage, that if you have an economic advantage, like finding a situation where everything is like where you're in a very stable situation business wise, maybe leverage that and see if it brings people in. Maybe it won't. The interesting thing is sometimes people do want to pay more. Craft is kind of one of those affordable luxuries. great beer, world-class beer is cheap compared to world-class wine. You know what I mean? There's a lot more people that can afford world-class beer than there are that can afford world-class wine. So I don't know. But I thought it was an interesting discussion point because some people are like going like super hardcore, Jack Donaghy with it, and kind of going like typical like big business fat cat type outlook. And some people were going like, we're all here for each other and stuff. I probably lies somewhere in between, but yeah, I don't know. September says, let's be frank here. There's a lot of subpar beer going on out there. After a period of time, either they need to stop or get out, not pee in the pool and introduce the masses to bad beer. And, I do think there's something to be said for that, September, because but the main thing I'm focused on is, like I said, I'm trying to learn more and more about the operations side. I feel like that might actually be, understanding the business side might actually be the actual secret sauce rather than, the best beer on earth, obviously aiming for great beer. You know what I mean? Hiring talented people, taking good care of them. But so anyways, I thought that was an interesting conversation point. For those of you that are out there looking for information, though, on whether it be Reddit or some of these Facebook groups or what have you, don't get discouraged, because if you post any question, some poor guy posted on Reddit. He's like, oh, hey, I'm about to retire. He had some money or whatever, and he wanted to open a little brewery, and he just had some questions. And he said, I'm just brainstorming or whatever. Dude, people are downvoting him, and like he had a negative, like overall, like stupid Reddit score or whatever. I was like, dude, it's just some guy asked a question. All these super bitter pros just crapping on him. I hate that stuff, man. If you're that miserable. I actually heard some stuff on what one was it? It was one of the ones where it's like, bro, if you are not like, I don't know. There's some groups out there that are pretty wild, and some people would not have liked some of the stuff that I've said in the past about, if you're miserable, you should stop doing what you're doing that's making you miserable, rather than just wishing everything was different and drunkenly posting on Facebook. But you do you.